Dragons here in week number 4 of phase number 2 of season number 9 of the SMITE Pro League. And it's a great one. The Tartarus Titans and the Jade Dragons about to go toe-to-toe. And if you at home have been watching and you have a Prime membership, make sure you know all that your Prime membership gets you. Free games, of course, every single month. This month you can experience what it's like to be a crab fisherman in the North Atlantic Sea. And you can also get free shipping and free subs and free in-game content as well as a lot more. So make sure to make full use of your Prime membership. And thanks again to Prime for powering us here in Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League. Season 9, Week 4, Phase 2. Season 9 again. We're just going to say that one more time. My name's Dolson. Trelly Relly's with me. Trelly, we had a 3-game set to start the day. It's the Scarabs. We expect that at this point. I admit I expected a 3-game set from the Oni Warriors and the Camelot Kings. That one very well could have gone 3 if the chaos didn't kind of land the way it did. And all of that has brought us to just one final set here this weekend. But a lot of action already happened. A full 6-game day on Friday, a 5-game day on Saturday, and then who knows between the Jade Dragons and the Tartarus Titan. I think what's so wild, Trelly, is that the fact that this week ends on Jade Dragons versus Titans, which just feels like a top-of-the-table matchup. And these two teams are like 5th and 6th in the league right now just because of how competitive everything has been.
Yeah, and they're both coming off a loss as well. You see up there, the Titans just lost to the Bolts, and the Jade Dragons also coming off a loss. So would love to come out swinging, at least finish the week on a dub, right? I think neither one of these teams wants to say, hey, we went 0-2 this week. So a pretty important matchup, I think, for the mental, but also for the standings as they're both sitting here as 5th and 6th, tied for 3 and 3. Absolutely.
Look, the Jade Dragons and the Tartarus Titans, both teams that if you look at late year potential, right? If I'm watching the Jade Dragons, I'm watching the Titans in any tournament play, regardless of 5th or 6th in the standings, regardless of 3 and 3. Again, we'll always reference it. That's just how close the SPL has felt this year, where the Jade Dragons, if some, a couple individual games go differently, they could be 4 and 2 up to this point. They could be 5 and 1 up to this point. They could also be 1 and 5. Who knows? I mean, just how competitive the league is at this point means that you've got to rely on your playmakers. And Sanford Soccer, over the years, has been the playmaker for this Jade Dragons team. And we've seen a variety of picks in the recent matches. In the last 6, and Nemesis, the only one, repeated a couple of times. And I think having that versatility in this style of meta is great to have in your jungle.
Yeah, no doubt. It's one thing to say that you have, these different style of picks, and it's another to say that those style of picks are working. And, Sanford Soccer definitely has better games than others, and given the fact that at the moment there's a lot of these tanky-style warrior jungles that are in the meta, Sam still liking those assassins, but he can also, he can pull out the Osiris every once in a while, things like that. So I don't imagine anything like that will change. It really just depends on what the Jade Dragons have went to. And you're right to highlight they always do bring some different style of picks to the meta. We've been seeing a lot of similar comps, similar drafts throughout the weekend, but this is the set in particular. I expect to see some wacky style of picks.
Absolutely, because the Titans are, and we'll talk about them here in a minute as well, the Titans are a team that sometimes will force you into those unique compositions because they themselves will be bringing a lot of uniqueness to the table. Sam is maybe one of the guys who's played Mercury the most recently. A couple sets ago against the Solar Scarabs in Game 2, played the Mercury. Haven't seen much of that, but that hasn't bothered Sam. Sam has still found his home in the jungle and found his home next to me for the pregame interview. Sam, thanks for taking the time. Look, it's the end of a long week, so we're going to kick our feet up. We'll keep this one pretty light and breezy. Okay. We're halfway through the phase at this point. Grade yourself and your team A to F on a grade school style of scale of your performance so far.
Maybe like probably mid-tier, like B-ish.
Like B minus?
Yeah, something like that.
B minus? Okay, we're doing plus minus scale. So B minus for Sanford Soccer and the Jade Dragons. If you were stranded on an island with one of the Tartarus Titans, who do you think would give you the best chance of survival? Sot Layers, Paul, Aror, CycloneSpin. I don't know.
Of actual survival, I mean, I kind of just want to hang out with Paul,
Just kick it with Paul? So you're not even worried about surviving as long as the life you've got is good, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so one of the free Prime games this month is Fishing North Atlantic. So it's like a fishing sim.
Okay.
Do you think you could survive in life like on one of those crab boats in the North Atlantic Ocean as a fisherman?
Could I serve? I mean,
Yeah, survive's a hard word. Do you
surely
think
I
you would
could.
enjoy that style of life?
No.
You could survive. Do
it
you
wouldn't
think
be
you
very
could do it?
enjoyable, but maybe for a little, fishing can be fun, but in moderation, I feel like, so.
Got it. Well, you can get your taste this month for free with your
Yeah,
Prime
right.
membership, Sam.
I'll be sure to do that.
Thanks for taking the time, and maybe take it easy on Paul. You'll be on an island here
All right,
maybe
true.
one of these
Yeah.
days. Thanks for your time, and best of luck. All right, so we got some good input there from Sam. He'd like to spend his time with Paul. I do get us a nugget of info, and that's all on me. A nugget of info, maybe mid-tier is how they would rate their phase so far. So the Jade Dragons clearly have room to improve, clearly have seen that there are areas that might have gone better this phase, but also could have been a whole lot worse. And this is a good opportunity for the Dragons to find a win over, honestly, Trelly, I think a similar opponent as far as phase has gone, how the phase has gone for their opponent. The Tartarus Titans, again, very similar, a talented team. They win the Phase 1 Masters, they win Masters, and then in Phase 2, they're 3-3. It's very, very similar in how these two teams have shown up in the second phase.
Yeah, the way I've been approaching this is I think the Titans were very happy with how they played at that Masters tournament, and they sort of were riding that high, and now they're just the trickle-down effect of the meta changing a little bit, and they're still trying to adapt to their playstyle and figure out what they want to do off the back of layers in the jungle, right? You see SOT's been whipping out some interesting picks. The Poseidon solo, the Bologna ADC for CycloneSpin, and then they just say, Layers, you stick to the meta, man. You're gonna play the Osiris that we
poor guy.
Yeah, we get to have fun. You're gonna stick with the warrior style of jungles, but it was able to work one game.
Yep.
Unfortunately, they lost the setup against the Olympus Bolts. They're gonna have to find something different. And again, the comp did work a little bit. I wasn't the biggest fan, so I imagine they've been cooking up something else. That was at Friday? So early on, they got to watch a few sets, sit at home, and just take in some information in the meantime. Maybe they got some practice in. Either way, I'm expecting to see, the same side of stuff we were just talking about. And that's why I was saying this set in particular gonna bring us some interesting style of picks, because the Titans, off the backs of these wacky style solo laners that Tot likes to run, we're gonna be seeing some different meta picks that have not been, released this weekend, I imagine.
Yep. Yeah, it's been a hard team to figure out. We have seen the Titans show up and decimate opponents, and we've also seen the Titans show up and get 2-0'd, and we're like, wait, the set's over? What just happened? And I don't think it's a team that is going to be super worried about the way things have gone for them so far. Through 6 games, a few of their sets have gone 3, a few of their sets have gone 2. Actually, 4 of their sets have gone 2, and so, it's been pretty hit or miss for this Titans squad. But again, nothing I don't think anyone is worried about in the long term. And there's a fun fact about Paul. We actually asked, I think we asked Neil during one of those pre-recorded pre-game interviews a few weeks ago who he on the Titans would want to spend time on an island with. Also said Paul. Seems like a pretty close-knit group there. You win a couple Worlds together, you win some Worlds Championships together, and you want to hang out. And so, for better or for worse, Paul is being willed onto an island by a few of his old teammates.
Yeah, there's a good possibility that Paul just showed some good survivalist instincts while they were playing together,
Some of those teams needed survival. Think back to, SK and PK. Neither of those two teams were, on easy street all year long, or in any of their sets. Survival was necessary for those teams. And this is us pulling information that just doesn't exist, but we're applying reason to a very simple situation. But let's get into picks and bans for game number 1. Let's save Trelly and I off this desert island that we call the desk, and the Jade Dragons. All right. Now I need to explain myself before we move on. Not the desk in general, but this specific back and forth we were having was just stranded and not going anywhere. And so picks and bans.
That makes more sense.
Right. And so picks and bans have saved us. Though I'd like to be stranded with you anytime, Trelly. That'd be all right. Jade Dragons find themselves in the first pick slot. Tartarus Titans over in second pick. And again, two teams that are not immune or not shy about bending the meta a bit. Broke the meta in Sot's case with the Ravana damage mitigation solo. So it's hard to, I think, predict Trelly between these two teams when you get into picks and bans.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the Jade Dragons lead with the Erlang Shen, because that tells me, given the fact that Erlang and Osiris are both so strong, more often than not, if you let one through, the other one gets through as well, and then these jungles will just be mirrored. Sam for Soccer doesn't jump out at me as someone who wants to play either of those characters, and that's why I think we're seeing them both taken away from Layers. Sam will just say, hey, I'm going to play like the Susanos, the Hunbatses, the Mercuries, that sort of thing. I don't want to put too much priority to that. Taking away Eset from Paul also going to be a smart option, which gives the Jade Dragons their first pick, Huang, that it looks like they were after.
Yep.
Whereas the Titans, they're just going to take away Xingqian, which is so popular right now. The Yamoja so popular right now. And then the Chernobog, which, you know, I'm not going to repeat myself, but you get it.
I do get the idea, Trelly. Look, Huang has been very, very good for Paul as well. Actually, it's so interesting because KDA-wise, you wouldn't assume... Actually, God, now that I'm looking at it, win-loss-wise, you wouldn't assume either.
Damage numbers-wise.
Damage numbers-wise, right. But that's all that matters for me.
Oh,
is
yeah.
how much damage you can do. 3 straight losses on Huang for Paul and the Tartarus Titans. 2 of them against the Kings, 1 of them against the Bolts, and a couple 2-2, 2-3 performances from Paul in that time span. So Paul is really good at getting the damage out. Just hasn't been the most impactful pick as far as finding wins. Now, the Titans lean on one of the most impactful picks that we've seen as of late. Helped the Solar Scarabs get over the Game 3 curse earlier on today. The Khepri, so disruptive in all the right ways, and a great way to start your draft.
Yeah, it just forces the opposition to play a different style of Smite than they maybe want to, saying, hey, maybe we want to get active in duo lane up. There's a Scarab's Blessing there. Okay, I'm going to go camp solo. Like, it's just easier to go to the opposite side of the map and stay away from the Khepri or build a lot of CC so that you can make sure this Khepri is constantly under some fire, force him into the beads, and then the Scarab's Blessings aren't going to be coming out so much. It looks like the Jade Dragons are going for the latter there. Artio and Fafnir, that's CC aplenty for this Khepri.
Yeah, that is a beefy front line as well for the Jade Dragons. So later in the game, already you're covering your bases if you're the Dragons between Huang, Artio, and Fafnir, but also giving yourself some early game opportunity as well. Now for Paul, in his last 6 games, it's been 3 Huang, and we've mentioned those have been losses, 2 Esets, which is banned out, and the one other game, it was a Morrigan game against the Bolts where Paul went 0-2. Morrigan has been a bit on the rise here as of late, Trelly. But the WoW, was that an excited WoW, a surprised WoW, a disappointed WoW, or maybe some combination of the 3?
Well, my WoW is because there's no good Mori transformations. And once I
Right.
see Paul pick the Morrigan, I imagine that Layers Camazotz follow suit. It looks like the Jade Dragons weren't too much worried about that. They're more worried about the second Cthulhu that Sok could play, which I think certainly could be the option. 2 Fenrirs also would be detrimental. So the Jade Dragons took out those 2 picks. Camazotz isn't really in the meta at the moment, so maybe Layers wouldn't go towards that anyways. The Raven, however, 2 Ravens? That could certainly be an option. I don't see Paul transforming into any of the picks that have been locked in just yet. So the Raven, that's the first good Mori transformation that has come through thus far. And now we'll have to see if that's going to be Layers piloting in the jungle or the more likely SOT taking it to the solo lane.
I wonder if this is the Titans predicting a pick from the Jade Dragons, trying to cover their bases. Nemesis has been a popular Morrigan transformation in the past, and so another good option.
12, 21, 12.
Xbalanque, no, we're not doing that. Although I guess you could. You could turn out the lights if the Jade Dragons want to flip the switch on you as well. But Nemesis maybe feels a little bit more likely. We have seen Raven jungle, have seen Raven solo. Hopefully this next pick shines a light on that. Amaterasu does indeed. So it looks like Raven will be in the jungle for Layers, and then Amaterasu over in the solo lane for SOT. Now, Ama in Phase 1, Trelly, was all the rage. It's all anyone was playing. Haven't seen that much of her as of late, but still pretty high impact, Scott.
Yeah, she's been decently popular on the SCC, but not too many SPL solo laners taking her out. Maybe a little bit from Scary D every once in a while, that sort of thing. But, you know, gonna make use out of the Death's Toll build still. Go for some, you know, the Berserker Shield, the Shoguns, the Frostbound. That's still a very potent build if you do want to try to go towards it. It really just depends on who you're up against. And when I look over the opposition, I see, unfortunately, an Artio, which usually means...
Yeah.
You're gonna be getting stunned, you're gonna be getting crippled, you're gonna be getting rooted, that sort of thing. You can dash out the channeled abilities of the Artio, but not into the cripple field. There's a few different ways that fineokay can use to just avoid that matchup if it is going to be, you're up against that Ama.
Right.
So I just don't imagine a very fun lane. However, if you're able to force those relics down, things like that, I think they should be fine. Paul's gonna have some decent transformations, as you highlighted, Nemesis and Raven. If you want to engage and shred prots for the Nem, and then if you just want to have a good engage/disengage from the Raven, you don't have to use your beads that way. You can save all that CC immunity.
Look, Paul is a dynamic player, but this Tartarus Titans team is a dynamic team as well. And surely this Amaterasu is going solo, right, Trelly? I mean, clearly that's what we're thinking. That's not the case, though. It will be an Amaterasu ADC for CycloneSpin and an Ullr solo lane for SOT. Now, this is something we see, right? Because if I'm remembering correctly, yeah, it's been Bologna ADC for CycloneSpin. And it actually looks like some role swaps for the Jade Dragons as well. I want to make sure I get all the proper information for everyone. Huang is playing ADC.
Right.
Xbalanque will be mid for the Jade Dragons. That actually is not surprising.
Yeah, that one not so much.
PandaCat loves this Huang. So let's talk about the Ama ADC and the Ullr solo. Are you sold?
No, I'll tell you. Here's the thing. In CycloneSpin, I'm looking at you. Build some damage on the Bologna, man. If you're gonna do the rank strat, the Bologna ADC, he went full just solo lane tank build. If he goes damage on the Ama, I'm all for it. Let's see some auto attack Ama. I want to see that sword moving as fast as possible. If you do that, I'm on board. I'll be the Titans fan, you know, for the rest of my days. But and the Ullr solo will get like presents, like no doubt.
Right.
You're gonna have a good time in lane. But the Ama solo, I want to see not just full tank. I don't want to see the sovereignty and the berserker shoguns. I want to see just like a stone cutting in there, a kin size something. Give me some shred.
Well, look, it's the same conversation Gore and I had, where if you're going to swap the roles, if you're going to swap the lanes that the characters are in and build them how they would be in their normal lane, why not just stick the guy who plays the Amaterasu normally over in the dual lane? I don't know. Plenty of questions to be answered, but J-Mac, I've got one for you. Would you make it as a fisherman in the North Atlantic? Let us know going into game number 1.
Take this BuzzFeed quiz. The answer to that is absolutely not. I cannot stand when it gets that cold fishing up there. Believe me, I watched enough seasons of Deadliest Catch. I would not survive in that kind of terrain.
Show.
It is a very good show. I used to watch that all the time with my dad back home. Fantastic show. I think there were like 10 seasons or something crazy like that. I couldn't even tell you who all was part of that now. But hey, it's Jade Dragons and Tartarus Titans. I'm being informed by production that it's still going. Good Lord, they got to be hitting like Survivor level of series at this point. That's another show I used to watch all the
People
time.
get voted. Wait, do you get voted off the boat?
No, you don't get voted off the boat. You don't get voted off the boat. You just don't make money is all it is at that point. Well, what I was going to say before Dave completely threw me for a loop asking about if I'd make it as a crab fisherman was that you can take the player out of the solo lane. You can take Cyclone out of the solo lane, but you can't take the solo lane out of CycloneSpin.
Yeah.
For those of you who weren't familiar with Cyclone up until recent times, back in, what was it, Season 2,
Yeah,
Season 3? He was a solo laner.
He's spent more time over in dual lane now, though. That's the weird part to think about, right?
That's
Like,
what,
I still think of him as as half and half. But it's not half and half. Like there's been 9 seasons. He's
Wasn't
spent
he like a
3.
supporter and mid for a while too?
I want to say yes, but I know for a fact
Or am I
that
just
he
thinking
was
of
solo.
Kiki, who played like every single
Kiki
role?
has played every single role competitively, so that is a very easy one to,
For a while,
to mix
also
up.
only played female gods. I remember that was a quirk about that. But enough about Kiki and, no, never mind. It's PandaCat on a Huang, but fineokay engaged in the solo lane. First blood goes over to Layers, who is the one piling the Robin. Seeing Robin in jungle is a weird thing to say this, but it's a bit of a new one now.
Yeah, this week it's kind of transitioned. I think the thing is the thing that made the solo lane build strong was a lot of that undying nature. And as we've seen earlier this week, it doesn't do that much anymore. So at least being able to control that, kind of shift it back over. Robin gives a really good level 1 through 3 pressure. I think we're about to see maybe where he gets his strongest portion, but very good early on. And I think an early game Ullr, especially with Robin beside him. We've seen this actually a few times with Guardians, and Sot has been on the delivering end of this more often. It has been just a stellar solo lane pickup because of how much damage he can dish out in such a short amount of time.
PandaCat pulled back by the Abduct up into the Celestial Flight. Cyclone and Aror will have this early wave pressure and the level 3 to their advantage, but at least for an Ama and a Khepri, the only real lockdown will come from when Ama does get that ultimate online, and if Aror has that Abduct ready to go. For now, pressure to the Tartarus Titans in a couple of these lanes out here. Mid's the only one where it remains at least a bit of even parry, and that's just because Morrigan, not the greatest early clear. Same thing with Xbalanque.
Yeah, it's more than likely going to be maybe the most, well, I don't want to say boring mid lane, but the most jungler dependent mid lane, right? Like, I don't necessarily expect Paul to, well, I always expect Paul to make insane plays. I don't know if it's going to be in a 1v1 versus Pegon here, and I typically expect Pegon to look for 1v1s. And that might happen, but it's going to take a little while to get there, especially if he's going Transcendence first item. It's not necessarily something that's screaming to me kill potential unless the Ravana or the Nemesis or eventually the supports start to show up and try to set that thing, set up any kills for him.
Is this 5 games in a row now that PandaCat has played Huang ADC? Because if I'm not mistaken, he played it all 3 games in his last set, and he played it game 2 or game 3 of the set before that. I want to say he is on now 5 in a row on
He
this
has
guy.
been playing pretty much exclusively Huang.
He's played more Huang than most of the mid laners in the league have played Huang.
This is true.
That's a wild statement to be had there. A brief pause in the action as we try and get back in.
Has it been better than having it in the mid lane for them? I think in some instances the answer is yes, in some instances the answer is no. And it goes back, I mean, David mentioned it, but that conversation of it's going to be the same build, same style of play, things like that. Do you then swap and put, well, actually Pegon can play damn near anything, so I don't think that one necessarily matters. But for some of the other teams, would it be worthwhile taking, you know, your mid laner and just shoving them over there on the mage, let them get the farm? And while it is a different aspect, you know, there's the big question, like dealing with duo lane, having the supports there early on versus dealing with mid lane and having to deal with the junglers there early on. It's all a weird jumble. But then you get players, you know, like Pegon, who has shown tons of versatility. You know, PandaCat, I'm going to throw Zapman in here, I'm Cyclone in here, who have either played different roles competitively or have showcased to us time and time again that they have like the wildest god pools in the world. And so you get to see that, and you know, in Panda and Zapman's instance, you get 2 players who are playing when mages in the duo lane were meta anyway. And so you get a lot of versatility here. And I like seeing the fluctuations between all of the teams because I think it goes to showcase that right now in SMITE, especially at SPL, there's not really like a solidified, this is what works.
Yeah, it does feel like we're a little bit, not really all over the place, but we're definitely kind of back and forth on where the viability of certain gods in certain roles lies. We know that Ullr has been top of the meta for a little while during Masters and up all the way through this phase, so much priority towards Ullr. We've been seeing it dominate mostly out of the mid lane. Yeah. Before, it was a lot of dual lane where the Ullr was making his presence known, unless you were Shinto, and then you were still just dominating in the mid lane anyways. But now we're seeing Ullr solo still being able to show some level of viability. So I think maybe that's, you know, one god that's been able to stretch that many times. We've seen that with more and more gods over time, and it's really been a culmination in Season 9. We were looking at Khepri before. Khepri was a jungler, pretty much, and now we've seen him solo, mid, support, and jungle. Haven't seen him ADC yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody tried to do that.
And my favorite, I think this goes for most games, any competitive game, but especially for SMITE, my favorite state of the game is when it does truly feel like there's multiple things that are viable, right? Where you're able to be more flexible with it. It's not just like, you know, we call it standard compositions. Neither of these fit into that. But, well, I guess like late game, if you ignore like the laning phase, they kind of fall into it. But I think that the best portion or best state of the game to me is when it's in a position like this where it's like you're getting wild things, you're getting these flexible picks thrown in areas that maybe you wouldn't see them otherwise, but they're still successful in those areas. It's not like a troll thing or anything like that. It just makes it more entertaining to watch. Also makes picks and bans such a wild ride.
I mean, it almost feels like we're going back to the days of OG SMITE solo lane, but in every lane now. It's no longer...
Except for supports.
Yeah, except for... Well, we don't get as much, though. We get a couple of mages sprinkled in, like Baron, Eset, Nox. We had warriors in there for a little bit. I remember when PBM was playing, like, Achilles support sometimes. We'd see, like, Amma support for a little while. So supports, at least as of now, maybe a little bit less flexible in what we're in there. Jungle seems to be kind of coming back to a state of parity a little bit more so. We were having, like, Poseidon and Hobwa pop in there, but... Yeah, as far as the actual direct laners go, there's been a lot of back and forth onto what can go where.
And it's been fun to watch. I also think that it's going to be interesting to see how it fares just, again, in individual matchups, right? 'Cause you've got the Huang building up stacks, Warlock staff already online, going to be playing very similar to what you see in mid lane. Except instead of having to face off against a hunter, as you know, PandaCat might have gotten used to, or having to face off against another mage, as I've gotten used to. Yeah, you're going against a warrior, so it feels more solo laney than solo lane in some instances.
Paul does get the stun on Pegon, transforms in thinking that there was maybe something more, but Not sure if the abduct wore off a little bit earlier there than was maybe expected, but that's Paul's transformation. That changeling is a very long cooldown at rank 1.
Yeah, it's going to take a while. Honestly, it's a long cooldown even at rank 5, but
Sure.
right now he's going to be feeling it.
2.5 minutes or something?
Yeah,
It's crazy.
maybe it ends up, holding you into a spot where you're trying to figure out where you can get aggressive. Luckily, and I would argue for the Titans, it's not really that the end of the world. It's a missed kill, but it's not much more than that. Pyromancer's not going to be up for another 2.5 minutes. Gold Fury hasn't been looked at for 7.5 minutes at the minimum. Like 15 minutes is really the mark that we've been seeing for it. So you lose out a little bit of kill pressure, and that's about all she wrote for the Titans there. I think that you're still winning at a lot of good aspects across the game. I'm looking, again, some experience that's favoring them, although mid lane definitely going a little bit towards Pegon right now in terms of at least XP. And so Paul maybe falling a little behind because of that.
Well, Tartarus Titans, with their only 1 kill so far, have been able to net themselves about a 1,500 gold lead from there. You get the first blood bounty of that 4,500 gold, and now it's an extra 1,000 plus on top of there. Some of that coming from the Totemoku control that's been going the way of SOT, being able to push fineokay under the tower to lose out on some of those creeps. And maybe that's where we're seeing a little bit of this, but as far as the neutral control has gone, Tartarus Titans have had that so far on the map.
And honestly, I think it's very impressive because, again, mid-camps, you look at the experience there where Pegon's maybe been getting some of that, although hold that thought, fineokay's in trouble.
Big heal by fineokay when he hits 2. The abduct will pull him right back in. Stun will keep Aror away. Now Sam is the one caught in the middle of 3. Does have the double dash. Aror just off the mark with the root, and the bladed arrow a little bit short from SOT to connect the kill. Now the PBM has rotated over and Pegon on the way. This should be a 4v3 for the favor of the Dragons, but the health bars on the Dragons are not so healthy.
Sam has to fall back almost immediately. PBM there we just saw
He
could
was-
not take too much. And then, well, Pegon isn't able to complete it. Paul was like right behind him too, like ready to go. If he saw Pegon jump in, he was ready for it. And that transformation's back up, so would have been able to maybe change the tide of a fight there. But I feel really bad. Of all things, I just feel bad for fineokay right now because it feels like Sot has just been bullying him. I mean, axes that are connecting like almost 2 consistently. You're getting a lot of good damage, decent invades, even though that one's not successful. The presence there from the Titans, I think, is just really important. And Robin's been coming over. They're making sure to make sure that it's not a comfortable lane.
Oh, fineokay taken down. Solo kill for SOT. No axe toss available just yet. And needs it if he wants to get the turnaround kill. That one just off the mark, but Sam doesn't have his dashes back up. Layers is here, and SOT will make it out a solo kill for the Titans solo laner.
Honestly, if Sot hits that axe,
Might be a
might be a turnaround kill.
Yeah.
He might get a little bit more with Robin on the way. He might have lost his life and then gotten an extra kill. But in this case, well, we live in the world where he solos out fineokay and gets away with it. And so, again, it's just the pressure that he's able to exude on this pick, man. I mean, good Transcendent stacks already. You're getting a lot of gold. And that was kind of the conversation. I think we were even talking to Hindu about this over the last couple of days, but that idea of getting more gold for your hunters and throwing them outside of the duo lane or into the duo lane or into the solo lane, wherever you think they're going to be able to get the most farm to get those items online the fastest.
Well, transformation on Mike and a Frenzy Pop. This Pyromancer being melted by the Jade Dragons. That's a good answer back for them, but Layers goes in, gets stunned instantly on his blink. A D-transformation out of Mike. Layers ults in with that Mystic Rush, but not a whole lot of follow-up. A second stun comes out from PBM to slow down the fight. Jade Dragons make out with an objective. The Tartarus Titans will steal away the blue buff. SOT continuing his reign of bullying over fineokay, face-tanking 3 different players who are staring at him.
Once again, you're still getting, I actually think, great hammers out of Mike right now. Good presence of mind from the Dragons, and I think good, well, let's call it good macro play, although the Titans doing just as well in that aspect. The fights, though, for the Titans are just being picked immaculately.
PBM, not going to get picked off just yet, but SOT with a jump over the wall will close up a 3rd kill for the Tartarus. Did I just hear him spam talk? Up against PBM, SOT finds another axe toss. Up against fineokay, a 2-level lead in the solo lane, and SOT is not going to stop there. Drops a ward over the wall, a jump over the wall, and a mixed axe toss, a missed axe toss. Good lord, what are words? I'm trying to say those ones too fast. SOT also steals away the speed buff. There we go.
Yeah, gets a speed buff, man. Again, it's small things. Big plays, though. Look, 2 levels up, a level in the jungle. Honestly, I thought that leap over the over the wall was layers, not SOT. Even more impressive to see the Ullr leading the way for the team. It's just been so much to deal with. And, you know, whether you look at his damage numbers, I think his late game damage output is going to be even more ridiculous compared to this. But I mean, look at that. He's 11,000. He's got 7,000 plus more damage
Hold on, is that
than
real?
the next highest
Is that
player.
Hold on, maybe if I cover it up and try. No, I'm trying to see if there's any way I can make it look like it's not real, but that's very real numbers.
And not only very real numbers, ridiculous for SOT to be
12
able to do
minutes
that.
in.
12 minutes in, essentially 12k damage. I'm going to give it to him. He's going to hit 500 in the next. Well, I guess
Right
in negative
here?
45 seconds, he's
Okay.
going to put himself up there. And
there
a
it
lot
goes.
of it is this, right? He's bullying fineokay. fineokay admittedly does have a thicker health bar, so that helps pad some stats. But it's also the axes, the damage, the fighting has just been well done from the right side of the map for the Titans.
SOT's just getting away with murder at this point. Another axe will hit fineokay. A pullback with the abduct will get the beads away from the Artio. And fineokay will. Another hail of arrows from SOT. There's no shot he
And
actually.
he's still there.
There's no chance that he actually goes in for this one. Actually, there might be a chance. Knowing SOT, he would probably go for that if he knew that he could get that kill. But with PBM and Stanford Soccer standing by, he just added another 1,700 player damage to his name in just that brief time frame that we were talking about it.
Hey, 13k, 13 minutes. Look, he made up for the lack of the 12k and 12 and made sure to match it out. To the point where I'm honestly forgetting there's even another lane. Look, there's a Huang going up against Amaterasu in the solo lane, and it doesn't mean anything. He's going to get this kill.
There's another lane.
Look at that.
You could fool me, Gore. All the action has been right here. You could have fooled me that we're literally
The
playing
tier
anything.
1 is still standing, man.
What a state that we are in this game. 4 kills is all the Tartarus Titans have. 3 of them on SOT. Hope some people have him on their fantasy team out there. It's going to be getting some nice points, at least in this game, for the very least. But it's a near 3,500, almost 4K gold lead up for the Tartarus Titans. Another speed buff steal. This time, Layers is the one to get the last hit on it, as opposed to SOT. This is a state we have not seen the Dragons in quite some time, Gore.
I mean, not just game state, but I mean just the way that solo lane is going is just nuts. I mean, the amount of control that SOT's able to exude on this, and we've seen. Look, Ullr has risen to the top of the band so far this week. First picks for teams like the Leviathans, 100% win rate on them so far this phase, things like that. SoloOrTroll might just be adding another god that has to be banned against the Titans. Unfortunately, there's so many. This one, though, a little more meta, might end up being a lightning rod for them in picks and bans, because this has just been very clean. Now, he is still a hunter. Late game, he is still susceptible to hunter things. Is a hunter that's 3 levels up, though, who has got a hi-rez, who's now got his Jotuns, who has the fully stacked Transcendence for like 10 minutes now. He's doing more than fine, and I love these rotations. He's gone for beaten Aegis. He's going to just walk around the old-fashioned way, but with the lead that the Titans have, he's able to rotate from lane without having to think twice about it.
I didn't even realize until we panned back over to the fact that there is, in fact, another half to this map. It dawned on me when we panned over there that CycloneSpin has a level and a half lead over PandaCat. Again, supports left that lane like level 4, level 5, Mike or Aror, they got away from there. It's just been Cyclone and Panda on that side of the map. Goose eggs across the board for both of them. But Cyclone has just been finding more neutral farm, getting that Arthurian camp constantly. And fineokay is just fighting for scraps at this point. Has to take any experience camp that's left, and he might not even get the chance to do that. Bead's gone yet again. And the damage from SOT to poke him out once more.
I won't be surprised if Mike at this point starts picking up bees. Look, these axes, like the CC from the Titans, oh, it's just been good. Look, I think the Dragons, they're a more than capable team. This is just hard to fight into.
PBM loses a lot of his health bar. So does Paul. He'll have to back himself out, but Layers will go right in with the Mystic Rush. Over the wall goes Paul. And Layers will go on the retreat. The first real pushback from the Jade Dragons around this Pyromancer. The Titans give it up, and the Jade Dragons hold firm for now. And thankfully for Doug, I was going to ask him if he could bring up the player damage charts. And yeah, 16,000 and still 16 minutes for the Tartarus Titans solo laner. But the Pyromancer, what was started by the Titans, will go to the Dragons.
Honestly, any small wins like that you can take, you're going to be happy with. Late game for the Dragons, I actually think is going to be really good. Despite the deficit, two really good frontliners, a very tanky presence, but healing as well from the Artio, good range CC. You've got Mike with the transformation as well as the stuns on the Fafnir.
Perfect.
Maybe if Sok goes down, this is a big kill.
Perfect chance, but SOT can go over a wall. The rest of them have to go around the wall, and that gives SOT plenty of time. You can see how many different cooldowns he fired off after going over the wall to give himself enough for that axe toss to come back out. His fingers got to be hurt, man. That guy's got some crazy hand strength. To shuffle that many buttons every single game, it's wild.
I mean, not only that, but like his axe button afterward, we should go look at it because I feel like whatever key, most people look default bound to
replace
one.
the keycap.
Yeah, you're going to be looking at it. It's going to be worn down here, as well as I guess left click with how many autos he's been hitting. But all of that has, I mean, it's just been impressive. But again, late game, I don't know outside of the lead they have how much I favor their comp over the Dragons, right? Two tanky present front line. I was talking about that earlier. But then you've got otherwise a relatively standard draft. Nemesis for the burn and peel and things like that you expect out of your jungler. And then, of course, Pegon on an ADC with a mage that's going to be hitting pretty hard in those late game team fights. A lot of that's going to rely on them getting there. And when you've got a 2-level deficit on your side lanes, a level deficit in mid and the jungle and support, there's a lot of work for the Dragons to be done to play that catch-up game. But I think 20 minutes, 19 in, still a chance to be talked about for that 25-minute mark.
SOT ages down. Cripple Field keeps him from getting over the wall this time. And Sanford Soccer shuts down the solo laner, but Layers will shut down Pegon in the mid lane. A 1-for-1 trade. The Jade Dragons got to be feeling good about getting a kill onto SOT, finally able to at least slow down the momentum that he has built in that solo lane, give fineokay a moment to breathe in that lane for probably the first time this game.
Yeah, finally having a little bit of brevity. Unfortunately, it cost him Pegon, and it looks like it might cost him Mike as well.
Oh no, Mike detransforms, and Paul has just enough cooldown to get that Dark Omen back. Another kill for the Tartarus Titans makes it a 2-for-1 trade.
I mean, just clean, right? First off, shout-outs to the Titans for their kill counter going 3-2-1-0 on the right-hand side. That's just something I can appreciate.
That's
but
cool.
Ultimately, I mean, they've just been playing well. That bounty kill, the kill onto Sot, feels like it should be worth a lot. But, you know, he was only 3-0, admittedly. And so, like, well, yeah, like, only 3-0. But I say that because like it's not like this massive 7-0 bounty that you're going to be picking up. You're just shutting down a killing spree, which isn't as crazy as we've seen in the past. And so being able to get that is a massive deal, despite the fact that he's doing a lot of damage. I think the time spent off map is a bigger deal than the kill itself. It's that minute that they had not having to worry about the Ullr that was the big victory.
Okay, so CycloneSpin has hit level
sorry,
20.
what?
Left the lane, and we're now 20 minutes in, starting a Fire Giant. The Tartarus Titans on breakneck pace in this game. fineokay loses out on his beats, finds the stun onto CycloneSpin, who's very tanky. fineokay gets pulled back in. He's not so tanky. Layers. Credit to the kill there. Cyclone finds the stun onto Sam for Soccer. Lead a couple of crits from Pegon. Sam on the run, PBM. Tries to find a path out, but Paul and SOT has shut them down. SOT will go right back in. And PandaCat trying to stop him on the backside. It's a double kill for SOT. And the Fire Giant leashed from the Tartarus Titans. SOT will jump back in and quickly bounce himself back out.
The damage done to Sot, look, that FG is low. Okay, yeah, Paul's gonna be here. I was like, everybody's getting a little too low for comfort to be able to secure the Fire Giant. But look, when you get a 3-man sweep, you run them down in their tier 2 tower, and the only thing they have to hang their hats on are a little bit of damage thrown your way. Yeah, you're going to take the Fire Giant. I mean, this has just been insane pacing from the Titans. A lot of it afforded from the solo lane pace, and now they've shut them down to the point where the Dragons, again, I'm looking at their capabilities. I think this comp in a 5-on-5 at equal gold feels really good. Their comp going into a 5-on-5, what was it, 7k down going into that fight, maybe not as good. And now going into it 8k down plus a Fire Giant, yeah, you are really sincerely hoping that the Titans are going to make some sort of slip up soon that you can capitalize on, because otherwise everything they've been doing has just felt clean. It's felt aggressive. It has felt very Dragons of old, right? When you go back to Season 8, Phase 1, Season 7, and what you see this team doing, the pace that they typically set, that's what the Titans are doing right now.
I am just flabbergasted looking at this player damage chart. It's 21,000 damage from SOT. The next closest is Paul at 10,500. And then after that drops to 6,500. SOT might, no, not quite. A lot of them are in the 6,000 range. I was going to say, SOT almost has as much damage like the entirety of the Dragons, but not quite. He has as much player damage as the top 3 Dragons players does. That's insane. What I want to see...
They're like 26, they're at 27-ish K as a team, and he's at 22K on his own.
Well, Paul gonna add a little bit more damage to his number up against Sam for soccer. Tier 1, or Tier 2 in left, Tier 2 in mid. Both go down. Gold getting astronomically further away from the Jade Dragons. At least PandaCat has been able to get some free farm of his own on this left side of the map, so he's trying to maintain parity with CycloneSpin, but it's hard to do so when CycloneSpin has been getting so much free gold on the map. He's already nearly full build on his own, was level 20 at 19 minutes in. fineokay steps up, and that might have been a mistake, but no further follow-up from the Titans, so fineokay makes it out.
This is where things got to be, I want to say, a little more careful if you're the Dragons. Look, you've got, or not the Dragons, you're the Titans. You've got a massive lead, but they do still have a good defense comp for the Dragons. I think the Huang specifically is going to give them a decent amount in their favor, but having the transformation for PBM, having Pegon as well, and the damage that you can dish out really quickly as a carry, well, it keeps a threat, especially with how kind of pinpoint precise things get and pincered they get just because of these walls. At the same time, you've got a massive lead, and if you get a single pick, even one person out of position, they're probably going to die.
Mike is going to de-transform, throw all the damage you can into the Fafnir. At least that's what SOT is going to do. A few auto attacks weaved in, a frenzy popped, Aror pushed low, the dueling Dragons just off the mark. Meanwhile, mid lane, the other battle that's taking place, CycloneSpin going to get locked inside the Phoenix, and the Jade Dragons able to turn this fight around. Now Layer's in danger, does that have that ult, stunned out by fineokay. Sam for soccer can just walk him down, but the Mystic rushes back, he goes up, down, in place, and not quite enough damage. Paul wants to close the gap onto Sam, but he meets Fine instead.
I think that's just, look, that is what happens. You're staying there, you're trying to fight. The fact that Paul got that kill is absolutely nuts to me. I didn't think it was going to happen, the amount of damage necessary to kill off the Artio. Impressive. So honestly, that makes it not, I don't want to call it worthwhile. That's still a big defense from the Dragons, but that makes it a little less bad for the Titans, right? I think getting repelled at that spot, losing Layers, who is undying, losing Cyclone, given a couple of kills that are going to be very important, not necessarily gold-wise, experience-wise, though, over towards the Dragons. Now you're starting to see level 19s, 20 there for PandaCat. A lot more, I think, for the Dragons that is opening up opportunities that I think the Titans wish they would have kept closed. And you can see right there is when he makes the decision. Has to go for fineokay. And yeah, it turns out he just does a lot of damage. Holy.
Okay, yeah. I forgot about, you know, it's Morrigan, so Dark Omen, I always forget, like, oh, well, you need a second person to get that Dark Omen proc again, or you need to have the ability up again. No, I forgot he can just transform into it and still get the proc himself no matter what, so solo kill here for Paul up against fineokay, puts a 4th kill against the solo laner of the Jade Dragons. fineokay has not been given the luxury to really get to experience much of SMITE in this game. He has been under tower, under Phoenix, or in the grave for the majority of this. And the Tartarus Titans setting up for the Fire Giant that has respawned, and there is no answer for the Jade Dragons. They're in a completely different, I can't even say zip code, they're in a different state right now on the other side of the country from the Tartarus Titans, who have picked up their 2nd Fire Giant.
Yeah, I don't see a world where contesting that's a good idea for the Dragons. Period. Like, I think 10 times out of 10, if you look at this state of the game and you say, do you contest Fire Giant with the Titans? No, you just never do. I think their best bets are going to be defenses around the Phoenixes. We saw already that split from the Titans can hurt them, and so I think that's the opening that the Dragons can go for. Pegon does a lot of damage, and if Cyclone, or maybe in this case, Oh man, they're going to have the Scarab's Blessing, which changes a lot if they are all in an area. But at least in mid, Cyclone and Layers alone is a lot easier to kill than, say, Sot with a Khepri behind him.
Sot narrowly avoids getting hit by the Phoenix Fire from PandaCat. Pegon needs a hail of arrows, a couple of auto attacks in. SOT uses the bead so he didn't get hit by the 2-1 combo from PandaCat. A solid defense on this right side in the 3 versus 2, but the 3 versus 2 in mid also is going fine for the Jade Dragons. Sam and fineokay able to push back Layers and Cyclone, and that's going to force Paul into this awkward back and forth in the jungle.
Yeah, it's that weird bounce back where you're not quite sure where you want to go. They don't have quite the pressure necessary, and that's the problem, right? And EFG, you don't need the fire minions as badly. You could walk in, Sot would be able to easily carry this Phoenix. But because of the backdoor protections they're still playing against right now, the Titans just don't quite have the presence necessary to run the Dragons down and roll over them, despite the absolutely insane gold lead that they have right now. So next Fire Giant, which is wild to be saying because there's still 2 minutes left in this power play, that Phoenix assault is going to be completely different. But if they don't play it carefully for the next 2 minutes, then they will end up in a spot where 1, 2, 3 of them get wiped, and all of a sudden the Dragons are in a power play. Admittedly, there's still 6 towers standing on the Titan side of the map, so the Dragons winning a single fight is only a step in the right direction of the marathon that they have to run to get to a victory, but a single step is better than nothing.
Yeah, they're going to need every step that they can take, any kind of assistance to fight back in this game. Because, I mean, Gore, we're staring at, once this Fury goes down, a 14,000 gold lead for the Tartarus Titans. Nearly everybody except for Aror is already at that full build point. We can see Cyclone hit his full build after dying in that last fight on the left side of the map. Only person who needs to finish out an item is Aror. Everybody else waiting to get their relic. And something that I noticed, picked up earlier in the game, didn't get a chance to bring it up, but PBM has gone for the splash. I'm going to be honest, I don't remember the full official name of the Sunder, but I call it the Splashing Sunder. You throw it out there, you hit your target, and then it bounces that effect to the people around it. We'll see if Mike can find some use for it in this team fight. Cyclone goes into the back line, finds Pegon for some good damage, but the dueling Dragons are even better. Aror in critical health, gets the revive onto himself, and will find a dash on out. Mike finds the jump, Paul transforms, and the Titans have to back away.
Honestly, though, it keeps them in a solid position. Look at this. Yes, their ult's going to be a little worse for wear. Health bar's still a little worse for wear, but look how much the Dragons had to invest to get just that. Now you got a Trebuchet. Looks like they're going to offer an opt in to defend this. 35 seconds on the power play with the minions coming up. They should take this fight.
SOT stunned. Can't find a way out, and trapped inside the fire and the flames of PandaCat. fineokay finds the last hit, but all that setup in CC locks that SOT. Didn't have his beads for a few more seconds before that fight came up. And once again, the Dragons have repelled the Titans.
And again, they keep themselves in a good spot. Now you're, almost all level 20. Mike's still working a little bit on that last level. But otherwise, gold catching up a little bit. Is it closing anywhere near where you need it to? No. But are you working on 6 slot items if you're the Dragons? Yes, you're looking at upgraded starters, looking at the final item. So slowly but surely, cresting the horizon that the Titans put them at. 15, I would argue maybe 20 minutes ago, like 10 minutes into this game, the Titans had a massive lead. Now, it's still a massive lead, still controlling, but I think the Dragons are in a better spot to try and defend this FG if they want. EFG, I had highlighted it earlier, but this is going to be the one that changes the pace. Titans get this, those Phoenix defenses become a lot more difficult for the Dragons. Dragons get this, and they can make up some of the gold that they're, in the pocket right now.
Gold in the pocket. Look what CycloneSpin is holding on to in his consumable, an Elixir of Power. For those who aren't aware, that's a 3,000 gold investment, which means that Cyclone has just that much more gold than everyone. Can we get a look at the network?
Full
just to
starter, plus all of his items, plus the 3K extra.
Okay. So he's not as high as it was earlier. He had like a 1,500 or 2K lead over the next person on his team, but that's still closed up.
3,000 gold over Panda, though.
It's still, oh my god, it is 3,000 gold over Panda, who hasn't even gotten to his last item yet. Meanwhile, the Titans have started up the Enhanced Fire Giant, half HP on the objective before it is leashed away. Cyclone will jump back onto it. The Jade Dragons playing this patiently. Unless Sunder goes through. Never mind, CycloneSpin dives to the back line. PBM transforms it to blink past the stun. Layers has found PandaCat in the back line. The agent is gone. The fire is good. The dunk down for the Mystic Crush. And Layers will find the first kill of the fight. CycloneSpin will get the beads away from Pegon, but Pegon's health bar has absolutely evaporated as Paul combos with Cyclone to take him down. Mike jumps on away, and the Titans charge forward.
Look, a good stun there, and Mike's gone. It's 2 versus 5. These Phoenixes, they're going to go fast.
fineokay will probably go similarly fast. He'll be able to get a dash away, but how far can he go? The answer is far, just enough. But a Titan is going to be looked at least by the Tartarus Titans. It's going to take at least getting through this Phoenix first. They didn't get the enhanced Fire Giant all that time, so they don't have that buff. But they've got the damage to do so. CycloneSpin has teleport. fineokay will blink in and find a stun, and now CycloneSpin will rejoin the party. All 5 of the Tartarus Titans. 14 seconds until PandaCat is back. Sanford Soccer doesn't have much time left. He'll get back to the fountain. fineokay in the middle of 5 is going to slow things down. PandaCat up in 4, but the Titan does not have that much time left. It will go down to the Tartarus Titans 33 minutes in.
Look, that one, the Dragons' backs are against the wall. 3 minutes in, pushed even harder, like bullied, lifted up by the collar of their shirt by 10 minutes. And then the next 20 minutes is them, keeping things slow. And that's even with the Titans pushing things down. But they get better tower destruction, good map presence. The Titans are winning fights left and right. Eventually to the point where the gold lead's out of control, they get that first Fire Giant. First Fire Giant, cool. Knock down the rest of the towers. Fumble a little bit around the Phoenixes, but not so much that you feel really that bad about it. Second Fire Giant. It's not EFG because we got the first one so damn early, so now we're stuck standing outside the Phoenixes again. A lot of that was just the Titans having to wait because the defense was good enough for the Dragons to stop them from winning, but not good enough to prolong through something like an EFG, so they had to wait for that 30-minute mark.
Crazy damage numbers across the board. Great play by the Tartarus Titans. That's in game number 1. Can they keep up that same momentum in game number 2? We'll find out right after this break.
It was a really good day. Siempre okay. Fuma mucho mari, so I feel lost in space. It was a really good day. Me llamaste a las 3 de la mañana. Viene con tu drama. 99 problems, me ahogo cuando traes más. Solo quiero resolverlo por ti. Me encanta cuando cocina desnuda para mí. Arroz con habichuelas y un poquito Genesis. Cantando una bachata en la casa mientras bailamos. Okay. No puedo explicarlo, no quiero cambiarlo. Solo quiero aguantar por ti. I don't wanna change this, I cannot explain it. I know it was a really good day. It was a really good day. Hey, hey. It was a really good day. Hey, hey. It was a really good day. Hey, hey. It was a really good day. Let's go. 100 palacios en mi mente. This is God's plan. En mi mente el camino va a ser claro y mi tiempo va a ser caro. ¿Dónde está mi reina? Cuerpo divina. Cuando me toques, I'm a safe kid. Un buen día, tú sin camisa. Prende el blunt y maneja con risa. El camino va a ser claro y mi tiempo va a ser caro. El camino va a ser claro y mi tiempo va a ser caro. No puedo explicarlo, no quiero cambiarlo. Solo quiero aguantar por ti. I don't wanna change this, I cannot explain it. I know it was a really good day. It was a really good day. Hey, hey.
And on a rainy Sunday afternoon in Alpharetta, Georgia, the Tartarus Titans are able to ignite a bit of fire, just like SpongeBob and Patrick did underwater. Under all the rain, the Titans light a fire in game number 1 and grab themselves a win. And look, Alienware, they power us here in Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League, but if you want like a magnifying glass and just Alienware versus the competitors, look no further than SOT and his damage numbers here in this game. SOT playing like an Alienware PC up against legions of competitor computers. Can't get much better than that. And if you want to get your hands on that type of gear, make sure to go to SmiteGame.com/Alienware and use code AWSmite09 for discounts on Alienware gear over there. So thanks again to Alienware for being with us here in Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League and being with us to watch the Tartarus Titans roll over the Jade Dragons in Game 1. A lot of it, yes, spearheaded through SOT in the solo lane.
Yeah, it seemed like the Ullr got off to a very solid start. Was able to come out swinging, and then Layers and Paul, they got online, and once they got that extra gold, they were swinging.
Pegon tweeted, "Still blind." If I remember correctly, because I've been off Twitter for I assume he got eye surgery or something like that.
Yeah, I believe he got LASIK.
He got LASIK, I suppose. Well, good thing for Pegon, he didn't have to watch what happened to the Jade Dragons in game number.
I mean, he still had to experience it. He just didn't have to watch it.
He said, "Guys, why are my buttons? Am I dead again? I can't see."
And there was a Xbalanque.
And there was a Xbalanque. It's all coming up us.
Yep.
The point is, SOT. Look, we pregame going into that game, and Gormizer and I have talked about it. Like, if you're gonna put a hunter in solo, like, for the matchup, and you're gonna build it like a hunter would anyway, why wouldn't you want PandaCat? Why wouldn't you put CycloneSpin there? Like, surely you would assume your hunter player is better at Ullr than your solo laner. But after a game like this, Trelly, I'm not so sure. It was an amazing game from SOT. Way too much pressure on right. And then layers on this Ravana. Look, one guy popping off, you can just funnel all your pressure there. But then you got layers facilitating a bit more of that damage. Was another good look for the Titans in game 1.
Yeah, and that's what I was sort of getting at, is the fact that SOT certainly popped off early and got the Titans into that winning position, but at about the 30-minute mark, give or take, it wasn't like they were able to find too much success. It was off the back of these one-shot kills from Paul and, you know, the up-down from Layers getting to the backline that was really able to make this game what it was. I mean, it was just so much damage coming out from the Morrigan. And if you can get that extra gold and get those items online early, even when the Jade Dragons were able to defend their base, they couldn't win that fight in the jungle. The double Rav composition was doing too much in the
It was. Yeah, Paul had a good game. I think it needed good game from Paul, right? Because this Titans team has struggled in the last 6 games, 4 losses, 2 wins individually in games, and then the sets have been pretty back and forth for them. But Paul has had like a 2-3-3 game, 0-3, 2-2, 0-1, 0-2, and then finally a good 4-0 game from Paul, one of the most storied mid laners. I think exactly what he needed to refine his footing a bit, and hopefully something for Titans fans that they are able to build on. How do the Dragons adapt, though? That's the big question. We'll answer that question.
I can answer it.
In P's and B's for game 2. Please do, Trelly. Tell me how the Dragons adapt.
They ban Ullr.
Yeah, I guess Ullr's been a ban anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like a good enough plan to me.
Yeah, because you're not letting Ullr through and then hoping that you can like strategize your solo lane pick around assuming that's going to be an Ullr. You're bending over backwards to allow the Titans to play Ullr at that point. Seems like a pretty simple ban. Ullr's been banned out half the time in the SPL anyway, 60% of the time against the Titans. That said, the Titans in first pick was going to say, even in first pick, you'd probably still spend the one and only pick you've got on an Ullr, but won't be able to. Jade Dragons take that away alongside the Chernabog. Freya takes a seat. Hunters have been getting banned out pretty heavily, as well as support. It's been duo lane bans across both these two teams.
Unfortunately, that's a solo lane ban, but yeah, I do agree. The Hunters specifically are what's being looked at, and the Freya also being taken away. But that leaves open the Osiris, so the Titans will grab that. Whether that's for SOT or whether that's for layers, only time will tell. And given the fact that the Ullr is taken away, I wouldn't be surprised if SOT goes back to just a warrior in that lane. But given the way the Titans played against the Bolts, this could very well just be layers on the Osiris. A Poseidon will come through for SOT in the solo lane, and then, I don't know, Bologna for CycloneSpin, and then you got that same style of draft. We don't have to worry about that because the Jade Dragons are in the driver's seat at the moment. They will take Huang once again. PandaCat having a nice performance. I'm not going to say great because none of the Jade Dragons really look great given how far behind they were put. But the Huang did Huang things.
This will now be the 6th game in a row that PandaCat has played Huang, if it ends up being PandaCat. But PandaCat has not gotten a kill on Huang in 3 straight games.
Oh no.
PandaCat went 0-1 just now against the Titans. And then in the last 2 games against the Oni Warriors, he went 0-2 and 0-1. And so, Huang blanked in 3 straight games for PandaCat. Yep. But in the games prior to that, a win against the Oni Warriors, 2-2, and then a win against the Solar Scarabs, 4-1. So, has its merits, just has been kept in check in the last 3 games that the Jade Dragons have played it over in duo. So whether they flip it back for Pegon or keep it for PandaCat remains to be seen, but history tells us that'll be a PandaCat Huang over in duo lane. Osiris plus Ganesh. A nice answer back for the Titans. Ganesh has been a very strong pick for Aror in the past. And then Eset for Paul has often been kind of that fallback pick. If it hasn't been Huang, Morrigan as of late, Eset is right there for Paul.
Yeah, unfortunately that doesn't help me decipher what the Titans want to draft in those last 2 spots because I still imagine that Poseidon and Bologna option is still on the table here because you don't know if that Osiris is going to layers in the jungle or vice versa. So that makes the Jade Dragons' job here a little bit more difficult because they don't know what they want to ban, but what they do know is that they want to grab that Nox. So they will, I imagine, go into PBM for some support action, but we've seen Nox more often than not going to that role, so that's not going to be too much of a stretch. I'm going to hold off to see what exactly the Jade Dragons want to do ban-wise, because it's a difficult one looking at the opposition, and they are just going to take the Ama away, so maybe not worried about the Bologna ADC as much as the Amaterasu ADC is frightening them. Yeah,
so if you look at the games that all of the Titans have played recently, really it's Cyclone and SOT. What has Paul been? Oh, I just talked about it. It's been a lot of Huang, Morrigan. So really it's been ADC and Solo that have been swapping the God pick. CycloneSpin at a similar rate to SOT has been playing Warriors. 4 straight games now of Warrior ADCs. 2 of them wins, 2 of them losses. Bologna banned by the Jade Dragons. And do we see CycloneSpin finally grab himself a Hunter for the first time in a few games? Or will he find a different warrior that he ends up wanting to play? I suppose it depends on where a couple of those other picks are going. If Osiris is solo, then likely a normal ADC for CycloneSpin.
I mean, it's going to be rough because both of his ADC warrior picks are now banned
Yeah,
away.
gone.
So they took away the Bellona. They took away the Ama. I guess at this point you could make a pivot and say, give Cyclone the Osiris. There's not too many auto attack based warriors left at this point.
Yeah, goodness.
For Cyclone to try and play. Yeah, but notably, the Poseidon did sneak its way through picks and bans. So if that is, what they want to go towards.
If we see a Poseidon, I'm assuming that's Solo and
Yeah.
Osiris for CycloneSpin.
Yeah, and then layers will have to find something to play. Because,
What a world we live in.
Yeah, we'll just
We'll
leave
see.
that one by the
We'll
wayside
see.
because the Jade Dragons are doing something interesting, and they're hovering a Chiron mid possibly for Pegon. Well, Chiron possibly for Pegon. If it is mid, it's definitely for Pegon. So that is going to be the hover. It would give them some extra range. You already have a fair bit with the Huang, and you got a good bit of lockdown with the Nox and Erlang Shen combo, and they will lock that one in. So that's going to be able to damage out Eset from a distance. I think that'll help out, and as long as Sampersaw can get to the back line and you can just provide the Centaurus support, it's going to work out. And wouldn't you guess it? The Poseidon gets locked in, but that still has not confirmed for me yet. One more pick here. Is it going to be a warrior, or is it going to be something normal like a hunter? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, the only way...
Your time has come.
So it'll be Raven jungle, Poseidon solo, Osiris ADC is my guess.
That checks out.
Or it could be Poseidon ADC for CycloneSpin. Could see
Nah,
something like
that's
that.
that's just nonsense.
Here's what we know: it's not anything normal.
Yeah,
right? I mean, it's not a
that
hunter.
much is confirmed.
Jade Dragons have not played
good?
a mage in mid in over 6 games. Xbal, Heimdall, Ullr, Chernobog, Ullr, Scotty. Those are the last 6 games for Pegon. Chang'e, all right. That doesn't help me much. So one of those.
Got to be fineokay. Looking at the Poseidon solo and saying, okay, I can immune the Kraken. I'm gonna play that.
You know whose fault? This is my fault. Because I said, look, Sam, it's been a long week. Let's kick up the feet, have a nice chill interview, some funny questions. I won't make you think too hard. And that's like carried over into this game, where the chess match of picks and pans has gotten super weird. So you're not assuming. You're thinking that there might be some value to Chang'e being wherever this Poseidon is.
Yeah, I imagine that's the play here. You're trying to look up at your matchup and say, hey, I'm gonna be getting Krakened a lot in solo, so I'm gonna go for that. Sampersoccer has to be taking that Erlang. PBM has to be taking the Nox. The Huang and the Chiron have some flexibility, but given the fact that PandaCat's been playing it for so much, feed the hand. And
Yep.
I was gonna say hot hand. Unfortunately, I just lost, so it's not hot at the moment. Probably like.
When you say feed the hand, it takes on a totally different meaning.
Well, if I say feed the hot hand, that's assuming that
now
PandaCat's on fire.
Now you just seem like a dude who just
Wants him to feed his hands?
eats with your hands, I guess. I mean, a lot of you do that, I guess.
Yeah, if you have like chicken nuggets.
Well, nuggets or tenders, since you haven't been on one.
I prefer the nuggets, to be honest.
Yeah. I think tenders taste better, but nugs are more versatile for dipping and I don't know, putting on pizzas or salads or whatever.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So that's my take
Okay.
on nuggets versus tenders. Tartarus Titans with a 1 game in hand move us on to a game 2 here, again with what we're assuming will be a very unique composition, and has to be because there's no traditional hunter locked in. Ganesha will be duo. I know that much for a fact. God help me, I've doomed us now. No, Ravana will be duo. Talk to me about early versus late game. I mean, it's so hard to really specifically talk about where a lot of these picks are going without us getting into game and knowing for sure. Do you think one team wins any stage of the game handedly?
Yeah, unfortunately for the Jade Dragons, when I look at the Chang'e, that is going to fall off. If you're not building full damage Chang'e, one-shot potential in the double mage, which if it's in solo like we think it is, isn't going to be the case. You're going to go for a sort of hybrid style build. It's going to be, you're just going to be setting up, and hopefully you have enough damage to damage through the opposition. I'm looking at a Ravana who's going to be very tanky, an Osiris, a Ganesha. It's going to be hard. I'm giving the late game to the Titans for sure.
Tartarus Titans up 1-0 over the Jade Dragons. Into game number 2 we go with North Atlantic crab fisherman J-Mac.
How am I suddenly this is the lore that we have developed around me?
It's not the lore. I've got bad news for you, actually. This is what you're doing next year.
Oh,
yeah.
So what you're saying is this is my last
Season
year.
10 of the SMITE is exclusively cast from a fishing boat off the North Atlantic.
Wait, do we all get our own boat to cast from, or are we all on the same boat?
Well, we're all on the same boat, and it is in treacherous waters.
Oh man, what a
Not like
what a script.
just
that Hindu's
because I
written.
think it'd be really fun to try and cast while getting smacked around by a wave.
I like how I try. You know, we do our prime reads all the time. We get we get to see the trailer ahead of time to see what cool games, and I try and bring up just 2 games real quick just to give people a sneak peek. And now that has completely derailed everything from this point on. It's Ravana ADC. Okay, let's get back in the game here. It's wild that we are in a state of SMITE, Gore. When we look at the desk and we see Ganesh, and we go, all right, we know for a fact where Ganesh is going, but everything else, who knows at this point?
And admittedly, they weren't even certain about it.
And here's the second wildest part about all that, is Pegon's actually on the mage this time. It's not going to be PandaCat piloting you, Huang, this game.
Yeah, honestly, I'm okay with that change, but I think it's just because of how many mages that are in this lobby, right? You've got 3 on one side and then 2 on the other. And
Lord.
so you've got at least a little bit of balancing. I'm really interested in this solo lane, though. Chang'e. Look, I love Chang'e. Personally, she's just one of my favorite gods to play, but also she does a lot of damage early on.
Just low cooldowns, easy poke. Sure, the damage numbers itself aren't too high, but when you can spam them, what, every 5-6 seconds, those numbers are going to add up.
I also think that she's one of the few gods that, as you go on with it, first off, I think it's worth noting SoloOrTroll skipped a starter item, so a little bit of maybe sustain or cooldown, things like that, going in favor of fineokay. But the other thing is that upgrades for Chang'e, it's very easy, right? Like if fineokay gets enough gold to go to tier 2 and deems it a worthy, purchase, just open the store and buy it. Your bunny will go grab it for you. You get a small power spike every time, and you don't have to waste time backing. And that's the weird thing. It's been a while since I played Chang'e in the solo lane, but for a while when she was like meta in this lane, and this is years and years and years ago, there was a period of time where you could legitimately never leave the damn lane. You could just go to your blue buff, come back, farm up, make rotations, come back, and the entire time just sending your bunny back and forth. And as long as you kept your health in an okay spot, then you really could just hang out, never having to see the fountain.
What a classic Chang'e skin, too. That's like OG Chang'e skin, the Lunar Tango that fineokay's piling there, man. I remember the days jumping around with that one, but we'll see whenever fineokay elects to send that bunny back to base.
Lunar Tango is not the one that I would have pulled out, because before it was made as skin, the community for it was Chimichanga.
Yeah, I remember that. I personally would have played the Valentine's. Oh, wow, I forget how fast that bunny moves. Good Lord.
Oh,
that
yeah,
thing,
he's zooming.
I forgot how fast that thing runs, because it used to take forever for that bunny to trek across the map. You could have actually just walked to base faster than the bunny would have. But that thing is zooming now. We'll see what tier or what fineokay has.
Well, they had to make it faster. Like, look how big the map is in comparison. Like if you drop this map, I think on top of like Season 2, we've gained a lot of map since then.
That's definitely got a lot bigger. 3 minutes in.
Look, like most things, the older you get a little wider. Okay, it just happens.
You are not wrong. You are not wrong there, my friend. It happens to the best of us. Pegon under fire, at least in the middle of the mid lane. 2 people staring him down. fineokay does get the tier 2 of that item, and just
the bunny, dude.
There it goes again. I'm glad that we don't have the icon itself. We just have to pay attention to the little red dot that screams.
I wasn't even watching that. Just watching it zoom in the background of the other players is so funny.
What a great game that we get to witness. And I'm not just talking about like this game in general, just the game of SMITE. What a fantastic game where one of the most entertaining things we can see is somebody sending a bunny to zoom across the map to go to base and buy stuff for you. Oh, about him potions.
We also, look, and this goes back to the meta conversation we were having in game number 1, but we're back, like, we've got 2 mages in the solo lane, which I just love. Again, one of the things that, you go back to Season 2, my favorite thing about solo lane was how versatile it was and how much you could change. The downside is, and, we haven't talked much about this, so I'm going to break into it. I think that secure, look, you've got Circle of Protection, you got Kraken. If the Titans aren't getting every objective this game, then they're just not present for them. But the thing that they're going to be lacking, maybe we'll have to hold that thought as Mike gets damaged.
CycloneSpin with the overhead kick to go right through PBM's ultimate and deal the killing blow. The Tartarus Titans start out this game with a first blood in the duo lane, and on one of the better persons you can ask for it, CycloneSpin.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Cyclone's going to need it because you've got, first off, a Ravana ADC. His build, I'm really interested in to see how this one ends up working out for them. Watching over everyone, I think, on the Titans. But the thing that they're going to be lacking is that ranged physical damage that you get from a Hunter. And yes, a lot of that will matter in team fights. Maybe not so much because of what they have, but more so when it comes to killing towers, right? You're going to have to commit very heavily, unless you go attack speed Poseidon, which is not usually something, or auto attack damage Poseidon, not something that we're used to seeing so much. You're really relying on layers, and CycloneSpin is like the tower killers, and that means that they're going to have to run in the deep trenches to make sure that they can hit that. And again, for some of these, like right now, that's a big deal. Like a 33-minute you have EFG doesn't mean as much, but little moments like that, lacking that range, should give some fight back for the Dragons.
Yes, remember that conversation we had earlier about Chang'e not having to leave the lane? fineokay has not done so, and a root from Cyclone locks Sam in place, so that 9 turns blessing just off the mark. But fineokay has not left the lane. Kraken will be immuned out. The probably most unfortunate part about fighting to a Chang'e, but now that immunity is gone, it's going to need the ultimate from fineokay to hold back layers. He used it there. Tidal Wave, not quite on the mark there. And fineokay will live through. Pegon rotating over to give some relief to his solo laner, but the Dragons do not fall.
Most impressed with fineokay's like tepid finger on the trigger. Did not pull the Aegis at any point. And yes, your 2 is going to get you out of the Kraken. That one was certain. It's the rest of that damage. I'm nervous the entire time, waiting for it, watching closely, seeing, okay, when's he going to pop it? When's he going to pop it? Holding on to that and being so certain that you're not going to get dealt that killing blow. I mean, that was just really good patience from him. And it's paid off. Look at this aggression from the Dragons.
Dueling Dragons. Out of aggression, maybe not actually on the
successful,
not on the correct target, but aggression nonetheless from the Jade Dragons, and some fight back, which is something that they were lacking a little bit of in game number 1. They tried to make attempts, but you know, when SoloOrTroll is in between your tier 1 and your tier 2 tower, 10 minutes in the game, 1v3ing people, it's sometimes hard to fight back. And at least getting a little bit of a lead, or at least trying to maintain some parity through the jungle with Sam for Soccer is a good look for the Jade Dragons to keep themselves in game 2.
Yeah, I think that being able to, like you said, keep pace, put yourselves in a good spot. Although right now I'm also looking towards these obelisks because it's almost full there if you are the Titans, so that's going to be a trebuchet. Those are actually maybe going to be important for him just in terms of helping secure things, along with, you know, little skirmishes like that one in the jungle.
Pegon knocked up. Silence is good. A flail over the top from layers puts Pegon to about 40% health. Heck of a combo that the Tartarus Titans have early on, and that's without all the damage items to boot beyond there. That's just a 35 stack Warlock Staff out of Paul, and a little bit of damage out of layers with only that Golden Blade so far. And if it's doing that much to Pegon now, it's only going to get worse for him as it goes on.
This is where things can get very dangerous. CycloneSpin, yeah, with a good leap, this is a kill.
PandaCat, nowhere to go. CycloneSpin with the last of his mana will grab one. PolarBearMike jukes out the Spirit Ball so he doesn't fall victim to another kill. But maybe Sam can get something going. Will be silenced out. Paul separates himself, gets pulled in by the 9 turns blessing. Ultimate not there for Paul, but Layers is here to stop that one in its tracks. Dueling Dragons jumped over by Layers. Mike drops down the silence. Layers keeps walking forward, but after taking half his HP, and now rooted in place in a rotation from fineokay, the Jade Dragons will finally get themselves on the board.
I mean, and that's a good kill, right? Paul is the original target, but once Layers leaps in there, I think that commitment, it was a little weird. Did you have the damage to try and kill off Sam if you really tried? Maybe. When he's surrounded by 2 other people, that seems like a risky call no matter what. And so I guess impressed with him to have the tenacity to go for it, but maybe questioning at least the choice to try and make that fight happen. I think that could have been a very easy extract Paul, get out, like Saving Private Ryan-esque moment. Just make sure he stays alive, and you're going to be okay. Unfortunately for them now, that's a good building block for the Dragons to go off of.
Max range stun, beads out of Sam, and a couple more autos will take down SOT. And now fineokay is starting to get online on this Chang'e. We're seeing Sam for Soccer make some impactful rotations towards these lanes. Sam's still a little bit behind in the jungle at the very least. Not too far. Spirit Ball onto PBM. Circle of Protection is good. Mike just needs a little bit more distance and a Dharmic Pillar. Be immune out by the ultimate, but Layers over the top will find the kill onto the support.
I mean, and that's necessary for them, right? You're losing your solo laner. You've lost your jungler. The kills, I think the Dragons have found, are just much more worthwhile than what the Titans have been able to pick up. But at least the Titans get something for them, again, to hang their hat on. I know Trelly had mentioned and said that he preferred, I think, the Titans in the late game. And having a tank, having the silences, having the control they do, I think around objective fights, I'm definitely keeping my eyes on them. But when it comes down to damage numbers, I don't know, it's such a big mix-up. A lot relies on Kraken, circle protection being a big deal. I think Sam's going to have an easier time being an aggressor this game than what you might get to see out of the Titans. Layers is going to be a big deal. Cyclone, when he joins the fight, is another one to keep your eyes on. A lot of, I want to say, just a lot more question marks around the Titans to me in terms of consistency in late game team fights versus what I know we can expect. Pegon is going to look good. He's just playing a mage, got good damage already on the board, things like that. You can expect Mike to be a little squishy, and I think that's going to be the problem that the Dragons end up facing is a lot of immunity. You've got an Aegis plus the 2 for Chang'e, a lot of capabilities to survive, like the heal there for the Erlang Shen. But you are much easier to kill, just forthright. Your entire squad's going to be easier to kill off than technically the Titans, although not by much, right? And so it's all a weird balancing game.
For now.
Both for the devs and for the players.
For now, though, we are sitting at a 1K gold lead up for the Tartarus Titans with a few extra kills in their favor, about 2,000 XP as well. Most of that coming from the jungle. As SoloOrTroll has actually started to fall a little bit behind in his lane. Actually, most of that lead is coming from Aror, level 9 on the Ganesha. Paul silenced out of his silence. Will get a silence on the background. That's, what, 3-4 times I said silence just in that one sentence there. But Paul able to hold his own in the mid lane, getting a little bit of an XP lead over Pegon to keep things going. Tartarus Titans, even if it's small, it's at least somewhat of a lead against the Dragons right now.
Everyone point and laugh at Pegon, who's the slowest mage to build their stacks for Warlock staff. Everybody else finished theirs faster. No, that's about all it is, though. I think that it's just, yeah, that's just mean.
That's just,
I think
now we're picking on the guy who can't see. He probably thinks.
Hey, you know what? He thought it was evolved this whole time. No, I think this is look, it's just a good pace of game for either of these squads. I think later it goes, the tankier at least, and maybe more trusting the Dragons can feel. But that right there, that little moment near the Pyromancer is a good example of why things have to be risky for the Dragons later on. And that's that if you aggress onto anything, Paul, SoloOrTroll can just walk up and scoop it away from you in the blink of an eye. Your Secure's not going to be nearly as good. I mean, the best one, Chang'e won, maybe Chang'e ults.
2-1 out of Pegon.
Like out of that, yeah. So you don't really have anything that I'm like excited about. Like, yeah, let's get the Fire Giant. I've got Noxel to secure this. Like, no. And so you got to be careful.
Oh my God! Doesn't get to play Smite as he gets cut off by a Dharmic Pillar, dropped in a circle of protection, and CC'd until he can't live any longer.
Ironic, because that's normally what Nox is doing to other people.
Yeah, and that's why everybody hates that. That's why I'm so glad that Nox is being played support, so we don't have to have a Nox Kumbhakarna on the same team. Because then you might as well just just unplug your keyboard.
You're
at that
vastly underestimating the capabilities of me now playing solo Kumbhakarna specifically to have this combo.
Well, our best chances,
or just going in arena.
Our best chances is to get somebody on one of the EU SCC teams to run the Kumba in the solo lane. We need Mogao probably more than anybody else, and then we need somebody to run the Nox support.
I will say, PSA, don't play Nox in arena as long as I'm queuing. Like if I'm online,
if you're against us, don't play.
No,
him.
Just in general. I don't want him on my team either. I don't trust that guy that's playing Nox, dude.
Blink in by Sam, finds the taunt onto just Aror, who eat a little bit of poke from Pegon, but it's only a little bit of damage. Some decent defense is online for Aror. Rush for that Heart Ward after his Gauntlet of Thieves, so plenty of magic procs to deal with the damage that Pegon has.
I like, again, the presence that the Dragons are trying to afford on the map. I think that they've got a lot of good damage out there, and a taunt from Sam with follow-up from fineokay and Pegon could, and maybe will, throughout the game, find some pretty good kills. But this is what you have to contend with. Yeah. You have double secure if you're the Titans.
I guess triple if you include a fineokay ultimate to throw there, or triple or maybe one to take away, sorry. Aror, half HP. but it'll be a double dunk in by Layers into the backline. Sam and fineokay now on the run. The Layers is chopping away at their health bar. Aegis will only buy fineokay a little bit more time. The Whirlpool immune out by the second ability, but Spirit Ball slams into the back of Sam, and he will be the first casualty of war.
And look, this is just the chase down. They want that kill on the fineokay. They dodge out the dragons. They're going to keep going.
Spirit Ball, though, just a little shy. Silence good on to Mike. Whirlpool locks him in place, but a great double root out of Pegon on the fire after. We'll make sure that Mike has a route out. Spirit Ball just a bit shy, and the Tartarus Titans will now turn tail and run.
Now let's talk about Breastplate of Valor, because this Kraken's already almost back up. And that cooldown is very helpful. Physical defense, yeah, that's nice when you've got Erlang, Shen, and Chiron on the other side. But I'm looking at the cooldown right now. Paul's going to be able to get out of there, so he's not in any big stress. If this was pre-9-5 and a fight like that goes the way of the Titans, I think they go for a Fire Giant, and then Kraken will come back up. They secure it, no problem. Now 9-6.5. We're in a dangerous position to try and do something like that. They would have wiped, but I think that is something to contend with. Having the Circle of Protection, being able to drop both onto Furies or onto Pyromancers, and then with the cooldown that is built in by SoloOrTroll, you are then going to be able to very quickly throw out that Kraken one more time within a team fight. And so it's not even like there's a massive opening for the Dragons if both of those get used.
CycloneSpin going for a hybrid of the mitigation build. This time going with the Soul Eater into Glad Shield, into now the Oni Hunter's Garb. It's the Bluestone instead of the Sigil. That's the only real difference between those kinds of builds, at least for now. Gold Fury started up by the Tartarus Titans will be secured by the Tartarus Titans. A little bit of a close call. There's PandaCat fires a couple Centaur shots over the wall. But the Titans, with these 5 kills they picked up, couple of objectives to their name. This tier 1 will go down on their side and at least close that up, but still a 3,000 gold and XP lead up for the Titans.
I mean, good play from them, right? They've been able to focus on it. Pyromancer, Gold Fury, easy peasy for them. To the point where this team could just PvE if the Dragons let them. They can just PvE and get very far ahead because of it, because of all the secure. You know, you hit 20 minutes. If the Dragons don't contend to Fire Giant, yeah, you just secure it. Even if they contend to Fire Giant, you might just secure it.
Tier 1 tower in mid under fire. Aror and Layers show up to push the Dragons back. Sam will utilize his 72 transformations, gets a little bit of distance, but stunned out. Dharmic Pillars in, and a dunk by Layers just off the mark. Doesn't find anybody this time around. And with SOT here, all except the... Okay, that's a Kraken thrown out. Just a little shy from SOT.
Look, it's just a flex on him with the amount of cooldown that he has. That's what I'm going to go with. Yeah, it's buying space, okay?
It's literally saying, don't walk here. That's what Nox is saying, but it's Sam who's the one in danger. Paul picks up the kill. Panda versus Cyclone. It's so close. Aegis for CycloneSpin. Sorry, the Aegis or PandaCat keeps back Cyclone. And Pegon shows up to turning down the kill. Back to the mid lane. Circle protection is back up. fineokay is low. fineokay is one hit and will be okay to get out of the fight.
That's that Chang'e magic. Unfortunately, Micah's Nox does not have the same magic. Tier 1's going to be able to do some work for him, at least in keeping some space.
Dash gets Mike away. Silence slows down Aror and Paul. SOT will chase, but I don't think you want to chase beyond Pegon. Kraken is back, and SOT
I told you it was the flex about the cooldown.
We'll throw it out there for the second time this fight.
That's just fun for them. Unfortunate for the Dragons as they chase it. Yeah, less than 60 seconds already because of the build that Sot's gone. So I expect to see a lot of Krakens, both hitting, both missing, whatever you happen to see. Sometimes just to have them out there. But I do like the Chang'e magic, what I called it. It's just that survivability that you're going to see. Look, the Genjis, the breastplate, both on the Poseidon and on the Chang'e, but then Chang'e has built-in immunity, the beads, the Aegis, both on cooldown right now, but when they're up, it just becomes impossible, it feels like, to kill that god. And there were moments throughout all of that. I mean, Chang'e ult can be so good for your team. You hit 3, 4, 5 people with that, and it is a massive stun on the latter half of the team that it connects on. So I'm going to keep my eyes on fineokay because, yeah, it stacks up 1 second plus 1 for every god already stunned. So 6 at the very end if you can get it, or 5 at the very end if you can get it. And that's the thing that's incredible to me is that if you can get that lineup, I think that's going to be a very wide open opportunity for the Dragons. But I see beads, 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 beads on the Titans, right? Every single one of them are ready for it, and only one of them is missing the relic right now.
I want to see it once in my life. I want to see
the whole
the once in a lifetime
Chang'e ult.
5-man competitive Chang'e ult would be one of the sickest things to see. Just because I want to see what a 6-second stun looks like on a single person.
I guess at this rate, it's more rare than a pentakill, technically.
I can't think of a single time we've seen a competitive Chang'e 5-man
I thought you were going
ult.
to say pentakill, and I was like, bro, I got a list for you. I don't know.
No, I literally have I've casted
Yeah, the
3
Chang'e
SCC.
ult. Yeah, good point.
I've done 3 SCC pentas so far this year already.
Yeah, Chang'e penta ults are very, well, not pentakill ults, just getting 5 people.
Just a 5-man
now,
ult.
if you get a pentakill with just a Chang'e ult,
That's sick.
now that's something to
You're
post
either
on the Reddit
you're
and get
either
your fake
way
internet
too far
points.
ahead, or you found some absolutely insane power build in order to do that, or everybody was just really low when you hit that.
Yeah, either way, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure, or capable pressure, from the Dragons around here. But you got to look at where the levels are. I mean, experience, you got level leads in a lot of places. 4 levels up right now for Aror over Mike. Mike's 0-4. It's been much easier for Aror to just come forward, be the front line that the team needs in this circumstance. Not only that, but you've got a 2-level lead in the jungle. A lot of the pressure in places where I think the Dragons could have been finding a lot of success is actually where they're falling apart. And it's unfortunate for them because there's not much they can do about it at this point. The Titans are playing Smite at them, and the Dragons are admittedly coasting along a lot better. Last game at this point, they were down like 10,000 gold, missing a Fire Giant, things like that. Whereas with the Titans now, still ahead, still winning in experience, and still controlling the map, but it's not quite as dominating, which admittedly has to do with the fact that Sot did not just demolish the lane for 20 minutes before joining the rest of the team.
We got a hover there from Doug over Cyclone's final item being built.
He's
the
got a
mask.
mask.
So Lono's mask on the horizon for CycloneSpin, which means
Now,
that
is it going to be
complete-
Lono's mask or one of the weird ones?
It has to be Lono's. It's the only one he
Oh,
can
right,
build.
yeah,
the
you're
wrong,
right.
yeah, the wrong disc only goes to the Warriors and Guardians, if I remember correctly. Mike finds a dash out. Heavenly Wings gets popped by Mike. Kraken will get the Aegis from Pegon. The CC chain is keeping his Huang locked down, and only a little bit more damage needed. Will it be the Dark Pillars to do so? Layers chops into the backline and finds the first kill of the fight. Now Sam and fineokay under fire, and a circle of protection from Paul to heal up the rest of the team fighting between the 2 towers.
And look, Layers is still ready to go, man. A blink forward. Oh, I thought he was going to keep the fight going. But no, he falls back. And you know what? With both ults down, this is maybe the best circumstance when they start this Oni Fury for the Dragons to try and steal it. Unfortunately, they just lost a massive fight, so there's not really a good opening for them to try and fight it.
They keep juggling this Fury back because they're trying to reset it back to Aror, but it keeps going between SOT, Paul, and Layers is sitting there going, please God, no, don't let this thing hit me anymore. I'm already almost dead. But the Tartarus Titans secure yet another Fury for themselves, and we are looking at a 5,000 gold lead, nearly about 4,500 at the very least for the Titans, which isn't as out of control as you would imagine with the way that the pace of the game has been going, with how much action there's been, and comparing what we saw in game number 1, this is rather slow comparatively.
Yeah, honestly, though, that 7,400-ish experience, at least 7K, is the bigger deal. PandaCat and CycloneSpin on parity, but a hefty chunk of that is between Aror and Mike. And if you get rid of those 3 levels, maybe not the end of the world, but it's a level everywhere else in the map. So the Dragons still fighting a little bit of an uphill battle. Closing, though, like you said, it's a lot easier of a gap to shut down than it was last time around. So I'm expecting more presence. This Fire Giant's going to be a lot more difficult. We saw 3 in the last game. I think this game, at the pace it's going, with the amount of towers that are still up, specifically 6 for the Dragons, none have fallen over there versus only the 3 tier 2s still standing for the Titans. It doesn't really feel like this, this fight is only going to be, again, the 1 step closer. But if you're the Titans and you get it, even with this lead, I don't think you win the game off of it.
Dharmic Pillars locks Mike down for a bit. He'll use the ultimate and the Kraken to follow up, but Mike finds his way into the safety of fineokay. And the immunity from that Chang'e will get him out. Dueling Dragons out of Pegon will not find a mark. But that was 3 massive ultimates used by the Titans to try and get that 1 kill. They come up empty-handed, but burn a couple of ults on the Dragon side.
And you also get to see, I think, my favorite part, or one of my favorite parts of a Chang'e kit, which is every time you use an ability, you use one of your dances, you get that little burst of movement speed, and that little bit of gap that gets you away just feels so much better, right? Like you're walking into a good position, or you're trying to dodge out something like a Kraken, and it's just that gap that makes it so that it's harder to follow up. They don't have a Hunter on the side of the Titans, so outside of the range damage from Paul and SOT, you really are going to be able to at least keep some escapism in your favor.
Fire Giant started. Mike is here. No ult just yet, and not much of a way to steal this one away. Has already used his Silence Puddle. fineokay in here to try and steal away the Jade Dragons. Do steal the Fire Giant, but can they find their way out of the team fight? Onks come through up against them. But it's a double taunt in by Sam for Soccer, losing a lot of health, will not find his way out. It's Paul on top layers, and Cyclone both dunk in. fineokay left to the Wolves and beaten down. The Titans grab 2 despite losing the fire, and maybe even more if layers can get some extra health. CycloneSpin goes to the back. Circle of Protection will take down 1. It's a triple for Paul, 1 for his teammate, and Pegon will not make it out. It's a deicide for the Titans.
They needed that. Look, if you get 3 of those kills after losing the Fire Giant, I'm calling it even. I think you're in a good spot. You're going to feel fine. You get all 5, this map state better change, right? You have a wave pushed up on left, a wave close in right, and a wave close in mid. I need to see some push. Even without the Fire Giant, you could definitely make this work for you. You still got 10 seconds before anybody respawns on the Dragons, but just a good play after what is a little bit of a late Kraken, right? You unfortunately lose the Fire Giant, which would have been, it was an abysmal thing for you because you've got Circle of Protection and Kraken. But then they come back in the perfect timing, right? You're able to lock people down. Sam goes in, 2-man taunt, all by himself though. That's where things are a little more troublesome. You're all by yourself, you're alone, they turn and burn. Then you could try to have anybody save him. Nope, easy like dominoes, knock him 1 by 1 after another. And then chasing him down, I was worried they were going to pull back at the tier 2. But I appreciate the Titans continuing that assault, getting the kills that I think are necessary, and being able to walk out of it alive. Now it's just going to be knocking down some of these towers. You get the tier 2 in right, tier 1 in mid, tier 1 in right as well. And theoretically sometime soon that tier 1 in left should disappear, and we'll still find themselves at least a little bit, well, not a little bit, a lot of bit ahead in gold.
So a few towers knocked down by the Titans after losing the Fire Giant. So unfortunately, they don't get to reap the benefits of having a Fire Giant buff of their own, but they have removed all 5 from the Jade Dragons. A perfectly timed ult by Mike and fineokay to slowly chip that one away. It did end up being that Night Terror ultimate out of Mike that ended up securing that one for the Jade Dragons. But a 5-man grouping on the right side of the map. The Dragons take out the tier 1 tower. And for most of the Tartarus Titans, they're all scattered throughout this map. I thought maybe the Dragons would commit to a further push. But Pegon gets spotted out, has to use Celestial Flight. And now a collapse in as Cyclone dives into the backline. Pegon used the Dueling Dragon, but where will he push it to? It's the SOT who has cut off their path with the Whirlpool. Pegon caught on the tail end of the tidal wave. PandaCat caught inside the Dharmic Pillars, and a double kill for SOT.
And look, the rest of the Dragons have to scatter to the wind. They can't do anything about this, and Cyclone's gonna catch him.
CycloneSpin, fighting 2, uses the beads to get out of the silence, gets the immunity from fineokay, and SOT wrapping around the back. fineokay is just basically playing cat and mouse at this point to see who's gonna be the one to get the final kill. Meanwhile, Sam has been clearing up the waves the whole time. fineokay popped by the Circle of Protection, and taken down by SOT.
You got a Trebuchet on left, knocking down a tier 2. You got layers in mid, knocking down a tier 2. And now you can get Pyromancer. You can get aggressive. Honestly, go for a Phoenix. You got time. And see what you can do with it. I want to see the team group up, though. It's going to take a while. Sam, real deep, real away from the base. I might not be able to do too much over here. At least Mike alone.
Back up. And that's the power of this full cooldown plus Bumba's Hammer. Is that SOT is throwing these things out practically every 30 seconds of a fight at this point. Already has the first quarter tick of that diamond filled up. And the mid lane Phoenix goes down to the Titans. Only 1 tower left that the Trebuchet has been slowly batting away at.
Look, it's just because his cooldown's ridiculous. He's throwing abilities left and right. Like you said, the Kraken's coming up. what feels like maybe too often with how well he is playing it and how often it is there. Look, gold is by and large in their favor. They get the tier 2 on left. And they get that middle Phoenix. Look, all of that without the Fire Giant. That Fire Giant was everything negative for the Dragons after that steal. If there's an FG on the Titans and they get both the fights they just had, the game's over. But now we're going to be waiting. Honestly, just go ahead and wait the extra 10 seconds, or they're going to have to, because it's 20 until it respawns. Get the EFG, and this will be fun to see how this shakes out. If the Secure is going to be a little bit better, Circle, Up Protection, and Kraken all still there. So it should be an easy Secure for the Titans. That's an emphasis on the should, though. Yeah.
Should. We say that all the time.
Should.
Circle Protection, a Kraken, a Final
Look, you've
Judgment,
got 2 of them.
a Serpent, the 9 wins. You should have Secure compared to what's on the opposition, but we saw 170 damage Night Terror ultimate steal it last time around. Tartarus Titans don't want to make the same mistake twice. PBM walks into the wrong side of the jungle, that being anywhere where the Tartarus Titans are standing. But Sanford behind, finds the Blink Taunt up against Paul, gets the beat, and an ultimate from Layers will at least remove the healing from Sam. fineokay trapped inside the Dark Pillars, will find a way out, but PandaCat does not. Spirit Ball from Paul finds the kill. Sam fighting against 3, has no way out. Another Spirit Ball connects. SOT, credit to the kill. Layers chases down fineokay to the ends of the earth, and Pegon cannot escape the wrath of CycloneSpin up into the flight and down to the grave. Paul finds another, and it's only Mike left to defend, but he's not going to be able to stop all 5 of the Titans from taking game 2.
What a wild ride this set has been, man. I mean, you get a little bit of wonky in game number 1, and then a lot of bit here in game 2. The Titans, though, while it's not maybe as strengthened as it was, or as strong, I should say, as it was in game number 1. At the end of the game, not only is it about the same timer, but it's the same amount of dominance that they were able to afford. I mean, that was well played. The cooldown, I think, working in their favor. The Krakens, the Whirlpools, all of that coming up very often for the Poseidon. Circle protections being very well used in the middle of the team fights, but I think Cyclone, Layers, the dive, the jump, the damage that they were able to chase down a very squishy Dragons team on the other side made it a lot easier for them to, well, at least find some of those wins, take some of those fights.
Look, I was joking about how many buttons that SOT had to press as Ullr in game 1, going between all those stance switching. He was basically doing the exact same thing on Poseidon this time, except instead of switching stances, it was just, oh, hey, my cooldown is back up again. This build is absolutely wild. It's completely ridiculous. SOT and the Titans look strong in this set. They're able to find a win up against the Jade Dragons, and a good way to continue through and kind of close out the first half of this phase in this round robin.
I mean, it's got to feel good, right? You're getting a win against the Dragons, a team that has been on the rise. If you're the Titans, you've been in this weird, tumultuous state. Sometimes you're coming in and you're absolutely dominating every week. Sometimes you're coming in and not quite hitting that stride, so this win has to feel good, even if it was a little weird.
Yeah, a little bit of a strange composition across the board, but the Titans make it look good in this set. That's all from us on the cast. We'll take it to the desk to close out our day.
Tartarus Titans back to their winning ways, and they'll end the halfway point of Phase 2 with a win over the Jade Dragons, a team allergic to playing normal team comps, I suppose, but a team that is able to make these styles of compositions work. Trelly, haven't seen Warriors from Solo Lane in a minute, seen a wide variety of picks for CycloneSpin over in Duo. Apparently there's a world where it all works.
Yeah, I give CycloneSpin my blessing this time around on the Robin build. He did go a little bit more damage. You know, we've seen Assassins in that dual lane before, and if you're going to build hybrid, I think that usually works out. I'm still upset about the way he builds Bologna and Amaterasu, but I'll let it slide because he's getting aggressive, and he's still looking for plays like this. At level 5, just being able to find so much damage on this pick because, you know, the Nox and the Chiron lane, it was never really able to come online. There was some damage there. Even the Jade Dragons did have some sparks. You know, they were able to steal away that Fire Giant. Unfortunately, get decided after the fact, so not going to find too much off that. And the Titans, they came to play.
They sure did. Look, and for weeks now, when we interview them and other teams around the league, they talk about how this Titans team is one of the most innovative when it comes to trying new things and things that likely work. Paul needed to be a force in this game as well. You know, I had mentioned that it had been a series of not good but not bad games for Paul either. Hadn't gotten a kill in a couple of games, went killless in the last 2 games against the Bolts, even in a win. And so I think for Paul specifically, getting back to that Paul brand of Smite a great look for the Tartarus Titans. You know, I don't know, Trelly. It's such a hard team to figure out. I don't know if this is the style of team that you can really game plan around, because who's predicting, you know, what they're going to play any given week? I think that dynamic, that style of being able to keep opponents on their toes, absolutely one of the X factors for this Titans team.
Yeah, after game number 1, you asked me like what the Jade Dragons could do to adapt to what happened in the first game.
And
I said, you know, ban Ullr, right? And SOT pops off on the Ullr, ban the Ullr, you've adapted to that. And then they said, we've got a different style of composition, the one that we've played before against the Bolts. You know, it worked out in one of those games. This time around, all it had to do was work once because you already had that first win. So the Poseidon solo, and then throw in a tanky style of ADC in that lane. It's a different kind of style that you couldn't adapt to in the
Right.
time of, and now the Jade Dragons, unfortunately, are going to lose 2-0 to the Titans.
Well, those of you who love CycloneSpin as a Hunter player, unfortunately you haven't gotten to see that now in 5 straight games. It's been Bologna, Amaterasu, or Ravana. Who knows what's going on? We know that winning is going on, but that's about it. The Tartarus Titans win this set, and SOT now with me for the post-game interview. Sot, if you can shine a light for me, because I've had this talk with Gore and Trelly. So we're doing a lot of role swapping of the characters themselves. Feels like Cyclone's been playing warriors in duo, but building them as you would if it were over in solo lane. At what point do you decide, like, all right, Cyclone is going to play Bologna versus, like, at what point do you decide to swap the god versus swap the players on their, like, why not CycloneSpin on Ullr and solo? Why not you on Bologna in duo as a warrior player and as a hunter player?
Good question. I don't know. We haven't really thought about that.
You just like to play those gods?
Yeah, we just kind of found a few things that work, and so we're kind of doing it. And I think Ullr solo is played a bit differently than like
Sure.
An ADC Ullr would be played. So I may be better like the solo style of Ullr than Cyclone would be at the solo style of Ullr.
Right.
And you also have to play, even the warrior is a bit different in ADC, so I think I would probably be worse at that too.
Right.
Compared to Cyclone.
Yeah, I assumed there was some value in just like knowing the solo lane better, right? Like you having just that kind of instinct about you. Do you feel like you guys are the most innovative team in the league right now as far as trying new things, team compositions, things like that?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I would say we're up there for sure. I think the Scarabs are also pretty innovative as well.
Right.
I sort of just try to think outside the box when it comes to like picks and strats
Right.
and all that. So I think that's something that I was able to bring coming into the season.
Look, it's a lot of fun to watch, and clearly it forces unique adaptations and all that out of your opponents. Dragons unable to keep up today. Congrats on the 2-0 win. Looking forward to what the rest of the phase has in store for you guys.
Thank you.
He gave me a thank you this time.
Yeah,
Last
no,
I
time.
was waiting for.
Okay, whatever this time.
I was waiting for the whatever.
Was that what it was last
he
time?
said
Whatever.
whatever.
Look, the Titans, they're such a hard team to sort of sort out, and I think the theory crafting, there's still so much to be done. We're so far into season 9 and ever changing, and that keeps the SPL exciting week after week. That is it for week 4 of phase 2. Remember, with this, we are officially halfway through the phase. Every team has played one another once. The good news is we're doing it again. One more 4-week-long round robin for all of these teams. And a decently lengthy week to start off, a 6-game day on Friday. Kings and Bolts go all 3, which we expected. And then down the stretch, Trelly, the Kings they seem to have the Warriors' number today. The Titans just seem to have the Dragons' number today. And as competitive as the SPL is, that just happens. Sometimes a team shows up and they just have the better game plan.
Yeah, it really just depends on how well they're going to adapt to the meta moving on. As you mentioned, we're going to be seeing everyone face each other one more time. And the question is, what did you learn from the first half of the phase, right? We've seen that the Titans have been able to adapt their draft style, 3-3 at the time, and then they started, moving on
Right.
as things went on. So I imagine they will be able to continue to learn and see how their meta changes and how they can force other teams to adhere to their style as well.
Here is what we are looking forward to next week as the teams start to play through one another for the second time this phase. The Kings and the Titans back in action, Leviathans versus Warriors, so you do not want to miss the action on Friday. And then the Dragons will take on the Valkyries, Scarabs versus Bolts on Saturday. So the Scarabs, I think that's a big storyline for me going into next week. Scarabs take down the Leviathans today? Can they do it again against the Bolts? Will they continue to look competitive against the Warriors? I think there are a lot of good storylines coming out of this week.
Yeah, if anything, it just makes my job so much more difficult because the trend this week was the Leviathans heating up. They take down the undefeated Kings, the undefeated Bolts. Now the Scarabs have taken them down. Is this the Scarabs heating up? I mean, we'll have to, stay tuned and find out.
That's right. Lots to look forward to for the rest of this phase and the rest of the year here in Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League. But that is it for this week in Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League. So on behalf of myself, Trelly Relly, all the other casters, everyone back in production, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on Friday.